Can you imagine a world without volunteers? This question shows the importance of volunteers and begins to reveal the impact that these people have, not only on human resource management and sport, but also in general life. This impact will be discussed throughout this presentation, particularly showing the need for volunteers, positives and challenges of the use of volunteers, recommendations to overcome these challenges, the economic significance that volunteers possess, why people volunteer, and the idea of altruism. According to Volunteering Australia, volunteering can be defined as time willingly given for the common good and without financial gain. The need for volunteers is evident in all aspects of life. Without volunteers, many events and initiatives such as charities, small volunteer groups, sports clubs, and sporting events would cease to exist. Volunteers make life easier. They allow events to run smoothly and enable sporting clubs or teams to get involved in valuable activities or tasks. For example, helping in the canteen at an event, set up and pack up of events, making up numbers for sports teams, refereeing or coaching in sports teams. And as the quote by John Hayward goes, many hands make light work. The importance of volunteers in sport is undoubtable, especially in roles such as coaching. Coaches at a grassroots level are volunteers and play a major part in the development of participants in their sport. After all, where do professional sports people start their careers? Some of the many positives of the use of volunteers can be noted here. Volunteers donate their time and energy without expecting a monetary exchange. This makes utilising volunteers extremely cost efficient. There is also potential for quicker business recruitment process. Hiring a volunteer for potential recruitment can benefit both volunteer and employee. This may attract a volunteer to join the organisation in a less committed form of work, in something they may be interested in, and the employer is able to use this time to understand if the volunteer fits the needs of the business. Furthermore, volunteers provide valuable assistance in the running of any program and are a great help in completing tasks that paid staff may not have time to address. Lastly, passion. A volunteer that is choosing to spend their free time helping volunteering is often passionate about the task they have chosen. This must be nurtured in management to acquire full potential for the volunteer. Some challenges may also be faced when working with volunteers. Accountability can be a challenge as volunteers are not generally on contract and therefore there is no real way to influence performance. It is important to note, however, that volunteers may hold themselves more so accountable as they are often motivated by the desire to help and are driven by the passion that was addressed earlier, rather than to just collect a paycheck. Liability. Volunteers may be legally unable to take on work that is normally completed by paid employees. However, volunteers can be given work in relation to these more major tasks by providing help to those employees under guidance. Another challenge is lack of time and resources needed to train volunteers who may not necessarily have experience in the work that they're doing. Employees can review whether they have the appropriate tools to train volunteers before considering taking on new help. An example from a sports perspective could be a club or association taking note of whether any of their parents have a referee's qualification before asking someone to run a game on game day. These limitations must be noted and addressed as they can impact managers from a human resource perspective. According to Volunteering Australia, volunteering in Australia was worth over $25 billion in 2010. If this statement isn't enough to show the economic significance of volunteering, Kelly et al. States that if volunteer numbers decline significantly, taxes and cost of a variety of activities would increase. Sporting examples of this could include registrations for sports teams, tickets for sporting events, or fees for hire and maintenance in some sports. It is also mentioned that this scenario could do a complete 180, and these activities could instead disappear completely. Without volunteers, essential tasks could not be completed, and the organisations would be unable to fund all that is needed to make these activities possible. There are many reasons or motives that someone may decide to volunteer, including social reasons, acting on the belief of the importance of helping others, filling time, to gain recognition, to meet expectations of peers and others around them, to play a part in achieving an organisation's goals, personal enrichment, enjoyment, to gain experience, develop skills and boost future career opportunities, to accomplish something, for expression of themselves, or even to protect their ego and improve personal image. These reasons exemplify the wide array of differences in why people volunteer. The differences in these reasons require HRM processes such as recruitment, training, development, performance management, and recognition and reward of volunteers to be modified, as the way volunteers are managed in relation to the reason they are there has an effect on their level of satisfaction and motivation. Following on from the reasons why people volunteer is the concept of altruism. Altruism in Latin means for the other. Altruism can be looked at from many points of view, and as a concept, this makes it a controversial subject. Some argue that for an act to be deemed altruistic, the giver must provide benefit to the receiver and cause harm to themselves. Others argue that an act of altruism must just pose some form of risk for the other person helping in the situation and must only provide benefit for the recipient. It has even been argued that the idea of pure altruism does not exist. Comparing this to volunteering or volunteerism, going back to our definition, volunteering is willingly providing help without financial reward. However, depending on the motive, the act may provide other forms of benefit to the volunteer, such as psychological benefits. This concept must be mentioned, as both ideas of altruism and volunteering are quite similar, as they both involve acts of helping others. However, unlike volunteering, if true altruism is possible, an act of this nature must not provide benefit of any kind to the person giving help, and it is important to understand this difference if we are to understand volunteering. In conclusion, the impact that volunteers have on the world is undeniably vast. This is evident in the need for volunteers to not only assist in aspects of activities and events, but the fact that this assistance is crucial to the lifespan of many organisations, clubs, and events within and outside of sport. The positives of using these volunteers continues to prove the impact they can have on an organisation and on human resource management. Challenges such as accountability, liability, and training around volunteers are also noted, as well as recommendations around these limitations. Moreover, the economic significance of volunteers continues to unravel the impact that volunteers have on a national level. Furthermore, reasons and motives of volunteers are an important part of understanding why people volunteer. And the wide array of these shows the complexity around volunteering. Lastly, the concept of altruism is touched on to provide a more in-depth knowledge within volunteering. Each of these together show the impact that volunteers hold in sport and human resource management.